I mean, I was at a point at my life when Chief was the most meaningful, because I was rebuilding professionally, personally, and financially. And
Mm,
so for me, the ROI was hope.
mm,
Gave me hope at a I was at a point, I was at a crossroads, and I could have taken two different paths. And the support from the Chief community, the opportunities that were there that I took advantage of, the women that I chose to connect with and learn from gave me hope at a time that had I not had that, it would have been very easy to be somewhat hopeless. And
mm.
ROI was very much for me, in one word, it would be hope.
I love that. I love that. And you're gonna, share a little bit about some of the things that you've sort
Yeah.
of done to kind of, with that hope, it spurred
Yeah.
you to do a lot. We're gonna come back to that. So Chanel, talk. How about for you, the intangible or tangible outcomes?
I would say the connections really. I mean, I've met women who, some of them do what I do, some of them are completely different fields. When I joined Chief, one of the things I wanted to do was make genuine connections, right? And I think like being at the clubhouse, meeting folks, I've met other women who had similar interests as me or perspectives that, really had a positive impact on me. I mentioned before, like, one of the tangible items that came out of my, transition was I decided to write a book while I was on my sabbatical. And it's called Your Life Deserves a Sabbatical. And in writing that book, it was like cathartic. It wasn't like I intended, to do that per se. But it was some of the lessons that I learned, and I felt like, I was praying about it, and I was like, I need to share this. Maybe it will help somebody else, right? And so I think, one of the major tangibles for me is just being willing to take more leaps in life, right? I've met women who were in corporate C-suite who decided just to stop and do something completely different.
Yeah.
Um, I remember one time I actually, at the very beginning of my chief experience, is I started reaching out to people like, people suggested to reach out to other chiefs. And the thing I will say to folks is if you're joining, is that, don't be offended if people can't get back to you right away. Everybody's super busy, but everybody's also very supportive. And I remember a lady who was a chief member, and she took a call with me. We did a Zoom call, and she told me her story about she came from Ivy League education. Her parents did a lot to get her through. And then suddenly she just decided, she wasn't happy where she was, and she was going to take a leap and jump
Hmm.
and go do her own business. And she said something to me that stuck with me, which was, you know what? I'm smart enough to get through Ivy League education. If things don't work out, I can go back and get another job. And I think that's some of the things that for me as a woman, like being able to understand that, remember who you are, right? Remember what you're
Mhm.
capable of, remember your strengths, and just know that you can take leaps and eventually come back if it's not something that works out. But the thing of it is, it's always a win. At the end of the day, it's a win because you learn, you grow. And so for me, the tangible was, going out and starting my own business and also publishing my book.
I love that. Um, what that also the underlying theme there is almost like resilience too. I
Yes.
I feel women in connection in community with each other kind of remind each other of their resilience, their inherent resilience, not that the bolt-on resilience, like here's some resilience for you. It's sort of like you can look back in the rearview mirror and see how resilient you've been. And sometimes you just need a little bit of a reminder of that. And being around other folks who are equally resilient kind of does that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
really think it does. And one of the things I will say is that when you go to the Chief Clubhouse, there's an energy there. There's an
yeah,
energy about other women being very successful, being very driven, and it just permeates to you, right? And so, like, I had one chief member who I did a call with, and she was like, I'd love you to come speak to my group. And I did. And it was great because it was other high achieving women that just need to
yeah.
talk about, burnout, some things that happen and why taking a sabbatical was great. So I just think that there's connections that you make at Chief that maybe you won't automatically, have in your group of people that you already know. Like you really get to expand your network for sure.
Yeah. And then do something with that, as you
Yeah.
expand your network and then it spurs other things. I think that that's a perfect kind of articulation of that alchemy of chiefs,
Yeah.
Lisa, do you want to, I want to get into kind of like the experience of how you fit chief in your life, but quickly share, if you will, Lisa, coming off of your hope note, you took a lot of that hope that you filled your cup with, and then you were off and running and did something a little bit different yourself, much like Chanel of kind of pivoting out to do.
I
Just
did.
share with everybody what you did.
Yeah, I did something completely different. So I was coming off of a period I had been laid off, and I had a very strict non-compete. So I was out of the workplace for quite some time. And I was, the career coaches that were outside of chief, right? The career coaches that
Yeah.
they give you in your placement package told me to shrink back, right? Take things off your resume so that you look younger. Take off some of your core accomplishments. And I tried that strategy. It didn't work. It was very offensive to me. But I tried it
Yeah.
and it didn't work. And finally, I was doing that. And at the same time, I'm listening to these incredible women in chief with a completely different message. And it gave me the permission to tell myself, I reject that. I reject what you're telling me. I reject it. I am going to lean into and embrace everything that I have done, everything that I am, all of my talents. And I am going to ignore all of this advice to erase things from my identity and my resume and and I did two things. I learned a completely different industry, and then I applied all of my knowledge to that industry. So I learned AI, and then I created a strategy AI. And let's be clear, like, I can't work a remote control. So the fact that I was able to learn to do this and do it from my
I don't think you're alone with that, by the way, but that's
right. So
that's a whole nother panel. Keep going.
Yeah,
I
indeed.
was inspired by a chief woman who built an AI, and I started to learn and gain more confidence. And then I took and transferred what was a stalled vehicle, and I just hopped in another car, and
Yeah,
then we're off to the races. Right. So
I love that.
yeah. And had I not had that feeling of hope and that feeling of empowerment and the permission to be empowered at a time when everybody else is telling you to shrink, never would have been able to do this.